Hey guys, Eric here from Marked and Made. Just a super quick video. This is in response to a question that I saw in one of the xTool Facebook groups, and I mentioned that I would make a video showing this. So, what we're talking about today is how to position something on a Tumbler exactly where you want it to appear, whether that be a graphic or a logo or an initial or a name or whatever that might be. So, what we have here is a document that I have with lots of different templates included. There are some for 20 ounce, 30 ounce, 40 ounce, a 10 ounce mug, and some for different types of Stanleys that were like special edition. So I'll include this file actually. But what I'm going to show here is just a really basic template. So the person specifically was looking at doing um, 40 ounce a 40-ounce tumbler and how to position it directly in the center. So what we have here is a template that segments that 40-ounce tumbler out. You'll see it has like this the top left, the top right. These little lines here represent where the taper is on the tumbler itself, and then the bottom is of course below the taper. So that's the smaller part of the tumbler. Um, these are already made, so I'll cover these really quickly. So what you'll want to do is basically split this into several boxes, at least two, so that you have a left and a right side. Unless you're trying to put it directly in the center, then you'll do it the other way. But you'll take your logo or graphic, and it'll be just like you're looking at the tumbler. So if you lock this in the center, xTool will snap it into place, and this will be directly in the center of the left side of the cup. If you want to go on the right side of the cup, this is directly in the center of the right side of the cup when it snaps those lines on blue up top. And if you want to go directly in the center of the tumbler, then you'll align it with this line right here. Now, you can also move it up or down. If you're on a Stanley, that's why you'll see some of these templates up here have the Stanley logo roughly placed. These are, you don't want to engrave over that. So if you were doing a Stanley and say they wanted something under the Stanley logo, you just want to do it something like this. Now, keep in mind, Stanleys have changed a little bit in their quality. So sometimes their logo placement isn't exact. I would still cover this with tape or at least do a frame out to verify that. Unless you're on the P2S and you can't frame out, then use some tape and use your best judgment trying to get around that. The foil tape, you throw it on there and it won't engrave through it. But yeah, that's how you get that really simply positioned where you want it to be positioned. Another quick tip, don't do anything bigger than a third of the circumference of the cup. So if you're doing a company logo and you're at 315 millimeters around, which you know that's the circumference of your tumbler, don't do something bigger than 105 millimeters wide. So you can see here we're at 65, we're fine. If we pull this up to 105 millimeters, that's going to be that wide. That's as wide as I would go because any wider than a third, and you're going to have to turn the tumbler to read it. So try and stay within a third of the total circumference. And then, real quickly, I will also show you how to make a template. So we'll take this 20-ounce mug, for example. We'll turn it back to the correct orientation. As you can see here, I've measured this out. My 20-ounce tumblers are 280 millimeters wide by 140 millimeters tall. And this is actually a group of two different boxes. So if I Control Shift G to ungroup those, they should ungroup unless I compounded them, which I may have. So let's try it this way. Nope, I just wasn't hitting the right keys. So Command Shift G or Control Shift G on groups usually. I don't know why it wasn't working there. But what I did was create two separate squares, each of them half of the width by the total height. So 140 by 140. And then I aligned them so they're perfectly overlapping. And then I grouped them together. Now you could just create one box that is, you could just create one box that is 280 wide and 140 tall. But what I've found in doing that is if you want to center things directly opposite each other, there's not a good way to do that. So, for example, here I can snap it straight in the middle, but I can't snap it to just the half. If I want to snap it centered on the half, I need this to be its own separate box. So that's why we do it that way. Same thing with the 10-ounce mug. This is two boxes. This one is 280. It's positioned incorrectly right now for the S1, but if you rotate it back to the correct orientation, it's 280 wide by 95 high. So this is two boxes. Each of them are 95 high, and they're both 140 wide. So that's how we got those together. Same with the 30 ounce. These are the standard, like China made dupes that we use mostly in our shop. So we do some Stanleys too, but most of the Stanleys we do are only 40 ounces. So I don't have a ton of Stanley templates that aren't for 40-ounce Stanleys. But I will upload this Tumbler template file to the video description here. I'll leave a link to it in my Google Drive. Feel free to download that and use it. And then if you have any questions about tumblers, let me know. I will be releasing a full Tumbler course for the P2S here on YouTube shortly. I already have one on the S1 behind a paywall, but I'm going to redo it and make it free as well here in the next 3 to 4 weeks. We've got a lot going on. It's busy season, but I will get to that just as soon as I can. If you have any other questions around maker education, check out our Facebook group. That's Beyond the Burn. Just search for that. You'll find it. There's also a link in the description. And then if you have questions about any xTool lasers, one laser lasers, or our DTF setups, or anything else you've seen on our channel, a lot of those links will be in the description too. Some of those are affiliate links. So if you click them, we may receive a small portion of the proceeds. We'd greatly appreciate you doing that. If you like this video, though, just click like and subscribe. We plan to push out as much free content as possible. Super tired of the gatekeeping here. And we also have a settings sheet. Feel free to click on the settings sheet link. It includes free settings for pretty much all the xTool lasers that we've used or come in contact with or that our friends have. And we have lots of settings and starting places there that we don't charge a monthly fee for. It's completely free. So check that out. Hit that like and subscribe button on the settings sheet. You can also go ahead and share your own settings, by the way. So feel free to use the community sheet. There's a little Google form link in the sheet. You click that, and then you can enter your own settings, and they'll pop up on the sheet with your name to be credited. So we really appreciate everyone contributing to this, and thanks so much for tuning in for this video. I will catch you guys on the next one. Hey, so coming back because I forgot to mention something. Sorry, this is at the end of the video. Uh, the way that you get these to actually appear when you place them is to start from the line. So start from the edge of the tumbler, engrave handle to handle on a 40 ounce, and it'll be exactly where you place it. So let's pretend we're doing this on the P2S. Of course, you'd have to flip this box around because the way that it engraves is upside down. And then you'd want to start by aligning your green line when you get your focus with this line of the tumbler. And then when you start engraving, you want those handles to be where that green line is. So if you have the accessory kit from xTool with the laser that goes on top of your rotary, I highly recommend you use it. If you don't have that, just get really good at aligning the center of your tumbler. You want that to start directly in the center of the handles, like over the tabs, right? Because then it's going to start on this side and it's going to work its way over here. And you'll end up with those placed exactly where they are. It does you no good to draw this template out. And then when you drag this over to engrave, you don't rotate that tumbler back to the handle point because then it'll be like you're starting from here essentially. So if you start engraving directly in the center of the tumbler, then this won't be lined up with the center of the tumbler. This will be lined up over here, and whatever you had lined up in the middle of this box will end up in the center of the tumbler. So you have to make sure that you align your template to your actual uh, laser's path, right? So on the P2S, it would look like this. If you had a letter or a logo in here, let's throw another M back in or something, right? Just a quick M. If you were engraving this, you would want this to be centered in the center. Of course, you're going to want to turn your settings correct. On the P2S, we use 75 power, 250 speed, 120 lines per centimeter. If you have a 63.5 millimeter focal length lens, which if you don't, there's a link to a document, a discount sheet within the description. Go to the discount sheet, get that one off Amazon for like 30 bucks, 20 bucks. It's going to save you a ton of money. It's not a specially designed lens by anyone in the laser community. It's just a generic lens that's available for anyone to buy for like 25 bucks. Don't go pay 50 bucks elsewhere for it and get gouged. Um, so yeah, do it that way. You're gonna want to set your template to not be output, and then your actual engrave to be output. That way, it doesn't send the template to the laser. Trust me, you don't want to score your laser all the way or your tumbler all the way around. So make sure that's not off. But then you're going to drag this whole thing over. If we were doing this on, for example, the S1, let me choose that laser here, and we're going to switch. And then if we were doing this on the S1, of course, it engraves the other way. So you'd have to rotate this around and do it this way, right? But either way, you're going to make sure that this line is lined up with where your laser path starts. And that's how you'll end up with everything in the right position. Again, sorry for dropping this at the end of the video. I forgot to mention it, but it is super important. So make sure you do that correctly. If you have questions, drop them in the comments and I'll be sure to get to them. Thanks so much again. And this time I really will catch you in the next one.